What's up, functional bodybuilders? I'm talking about the dip today. How should you be performing the dip? What are some scaled or regressed variations of it? And then maybe if you want to progress, what might you want to do? So most of the time when we're getting started in the dips, I recommend starting with bars. I think the bars, they're static as opposed to rings. This is going to be far easier to control your body position. Now, dip bars are typically made in this orientation where there's a slight V that points inward. I have found it just as comfortable to point inward as pointing outward. And actually, when we point outward, this position actually externally rotates at the shoulder, which is somewhat of an ideal pressing position. Now, you can do it either way. I'm going to show it for the sake of this video, point it out. The points of performance that I think are relevant when you're doing dips is where I use this exercise because it's a great developer for the shoulders, the chest, and the triceps. But with everything that we're doing in functional bodybuilding, we want to maximize range of motion. And I know that doing dips at an abbreviated range of motion, if you don't explore full range, can leave certain parts of the shoulder vulnerable to injury and the chest vulnerable to injury. So I think it's important to really focus on getting a deep range of motion in the dip. And so the starting position would be shoulders right over your wrists. And then as I come down, I'm not lowering my body straight down, but I'm lowering my shoulders forward and down until they're in this orientation where the shoulder is far below the elbow, okay? This would be a 90 degree, and I want to go past that 90 degree point. Dropping below the 90 degree point is where a lot of individuals feel weak. That is getting closer to your end range of shoulder flexion and shoulder extension. And when you're in that position, you might not feel as stable and as strong. So this is where if you don't have a full range of motion dip and the strength for it, we want to start looking at regressions. One of the regressions is using a band to support your dip. I don't particularly love bands for dips just because they're a little awkward to get in and out of. But if you set up the dip like this with a band around each side, then when I hit the bottom of my range of motion, the band is providing a lot of support, which helps me confidently get out of the bottom and back to the top. You can use a slightly thicker band or a thinner band, and that can provide you with some measurable resistance that you can track over time as you're trying to get better. Another option that I really like, and I do this very frequently, even though I have the strength to do full dips, if my shoulders are feeling a little sore or a little stiff, or if something's bothering me and I'm not quite warmed up yet, this is what I prefer to do. I have this dip bar set up at such a height where my feet can actually touch the ground when I'm in full range. So I will start at the top, I'll control myself down, let my feet touch, and then press back up. Come all the way down, let my feet touch, and press back up. So I am scaling and supporting myself at the bottom of the dip and using my legs to get myself out of that deep range where I'm a little bit more vulnerable and less strong. The problem with using your feet is that it's less measurable than a band. How much did I push? How much did I support myself? But as thinking athletes, functional bodybuilders, you need to learn and start to feel your way through this stuff and don't always rely on the numbers. Now, so those are two ways to scale points of performance. Let's talk about the progression over here on the rings. The rings provide you with an unstable surface. One of the key elements that I've taught in functional bodybuilding courses is that you move from stable surfaces to unstable surfaces as a means of progression. The rings provide unstable attachments that will force you to use a lot more of your intrinsic shoulder, chest, lat stabilizers to keep the ring still so you can perform the rep. Going straight from here to here is going to be a big jump in difficulty. Couple notes about the rings. The longer the strap, the more unstable it's going to be. So if you want to start with ring dips, then perhaps connect the straps to a lower bar so that they're not as long. A shorter ring strap will make it easier because there won't be as much wiggle room in play. Second, the closer they are together, if I bring these very close and then I come up into my support position, you can see that now the straps are pressed up against my body, which provides me another point of contact, basically. It's making the ring straps shorter. So narrower ring straps or closer ring straps together, it's gonna make it a little easier to stabilize, as opposed to putting them very wide. If I go very wide and I come up in this dip, it is much harder because now I have to actively pull the rings in towards my body. So those are 2 hacks that you can bring. Shorten the ring straps, bring them in closer together, and you'll find yourself more stable. Nothing changes about the points of performance once you do them on the rings. You're still bringing the shoulders forward, down, past the elbow, and back up. And you can even use the same regression of feet touch the floor, back up to the top if you'd like. That was a mouthful. I hope you followed along. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I hope that helps you along your way to getting better and more confident at the dip.